Japan's Soros moment, the yen, JGBs, and the limits of control. Flint West reporting. There is a moment in every monetary regime when the language stops working. When policymakers keep saying orderly, temporary, transitory, and markets start responding with numbers instead of narratives. Japan is approaching that moment. Not because the yen is weak. Japan has lived with a weak yen for decades. Not because debt is high. It has been high for a generation. Not because yields are rising. They have risen before. But because all three are now moving together. And when currency weakness, bond yields, and input costs align in the same direction, control does not fail loudly. It fails quietly, then all at once. For years, the weak yen was Japan's pressure valve. Exports got cheaper, corporate margins survived, imported deflation masked structural decay. It was a trade the world understood. But that trade no longer works, because the world changed around it. Today, the yen is not just falling against the dollar. It is falling against trading partners, competitors, and inputs. And that distinction matters. Because when your currency falls against the currency you price exports in, you gain competitiveness. But when it falls against the currencies and commodities you import, you do not gain margin. You inherit inflation. Look at the mechanics. Silver, not a speculative metal here, but a strategic industrial input. Conductive paste. Semiconductors, precision electronics. China tightens control over silver exports. Global silver prices rise sharply in dollar terms. At the same time, the yen weakens. Be conservative. Silver up 30% in dollars, the yen down 25%. That is not a 55% problem. It is a 73% cost shock in yen terms, before logistics, premiums, financing, or hedging slippage. And that cost does not hit a spreadsheet. It hits export margins. This is where the myth breaks. A weak currency only helps exporters when inputs are stable or domestic. Japan's inputs are neither. Energy is imported, silver is imported, critical materials are imported. So the weak yen does not lower costs anymore. It raises them. Now layer in rates. The Japanese government bond market, the largest, quietest fault line in global finance. For decades, yields were compressed, controlled, anesthetized. Yield curve control became doctrine. But doctrine only holds when inflation is absent and capital is obedient. Today, the 10-year Japanese government bond is trading around 2.24%. That number may not scare an American investor. It should terrify a Japanese policymaker. Because Japan does not carry 100% debt to GDP. It carries north of 250%. At 2.2%, the system creaks. At 2.5%, someone is in trouble. At 3%, the post-1990 model is finished. This is not about default. It is about fiscal gravity. Every basis point reprices pensions, bank balance sheets, insurance solvency, and government interest expense. And unlike past cycles, inflation is no longer theoretical. Households feel it, energy bills feel it, food prices feel it. The social contract that allowed monetary repression is thinning. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. So policymakers intervene. They sell dollars, they buy yen. And how do they sell dollars? By selling United States treasuries. Here is the reflexive trap. Japan intervenes by selling dollars and liquidating treasuries. The direct effect is temporary yen strength. But in a yield-sensitive world, large treasury sales push United States yields higher. Higher yields widen rate differentials, revive carry trades, and attract global capital into dollars. As yield forces overwhelm spot intervention, the dollar reasserts strength, and the yen resumes weakening. Intervention no longer stabilizes the system. It tightens it. Each defense makes the next defense more expensive. This is not a speculative attack. It is a credibility bleed. Now zoom out. China, Japan's direct industrial competitor, controls upstream inputs. China internalizes commodity shocks. China subsidizes exporters. Japan imports costs. China exports margins. So even as the yen falls, Japanese electronics do not get cheaper relative to Chinese equivalents. They get less competitive. That is the inversion. The weak yen, once Japan's edge, is now a liability. This is why 160 yen to the dollar mattered historically. It is where imported inflation becomes political, where corporate hedges crack, where the narrative breaks. But this time, the line is not 160. The line is yields. A yen at 180 can survive if rates are pinned. A yen at 200 can exist if inflation is suppressed. But a weak yen and rising yields together? That is the end of simultaneous control. That is the Soros moment, not a peg break, but a loss of degrees of freedom. The market is not asking whether Japan will intervene again. It is asking what happens after intervention no longer works. This is not Armageddon for Japan. Japan will not default. It will not hyperinflate. It will not implode. But the model ends. Yield curve control becomes explicit monetization. Foreign exchange stability becomes secondary. Purchasing power resets lower. Japan's role as a global capital exporter fades. This is not collapse. It is transition under stress. So here's the position. Watch three numbers, not headlines. First, the yen weakens without sustained follow-through from intervention. Second, 10-year Japanese government bond yields remain above 2.5%. Third, strategic inputs are priced in dollars while the yen continues to fall. When all three align, the system is no longer being tested. It is being forced. And when control systems fail, they do not announce it. They simply stop responding. That is where Japan is headed. Not loudly, not suddenly, but unmistakably. Flint West signing off.